Has been made after a woman's body was found in an Elmsford motel room over the weekend. News 12's Jackie Gillis has an update.
Elmsford police have identified the victim as 32-year-old Rose Philippe. Her body was found in one of the rooms on the second floor at the Days Inn Motel located on Valley Avenue. This was the scene Sunday evening at around 4:30. According to police, Philippe was pronounced dead about 10 minutes after they arrived on scene. Police say video surveillance showed a man fleeing the scene along with a young child. The suspect has been identified as 32-year-old Justin Bartley. Bartley was found in the Bronx shortly after 6 p.m. Bartley and the child were safely brought back to Elmsford Police Headquarters without further incident. Bartley was arraigned this morning and has been charged with second-degree murder. He remains at the Westchester County Department of Corrections. At this time, we do not know the connection between Philippe and Bartley. The cause of death is also unknown. This is a developing story, so stick with News 12 for the latest. In Elmsford, Westchester County, Jackie Gillis, News 12.
Step into grave kisses, where the shadows whisper, and the secrets the world tried to bury scream to be heard. This isn't just true crime. This is truth with teeth. Stories that sting. Cases that crawl under your skin. Names that refuse to stay forgotten. We don't chase headlines, we chase ghosts. Because here, every story deserves one last heartbeat. So if you're the kind who can't look away, who wants to know what really happened, who believes every story deserves its voice, this is where you belong. Hit subscribe, stay close, because the truth doesn't rest easy, and neither do we. A cleaning lady at the Days Inn Motel in Elmsford pushed open the door to room 230 that Sunday afternoon, ready to change some sheets and wipe down surfaces. What she found in that bathtub made her drop everything and run. Rose Philippe, 32 years old, mother of a 2-year-old boy, was dead. But here's what makes this even more chilling. Her son had been right there while it happened. And the man who did it? He grabbed that baby and disappeared. Rose Philippe. Rose, to everyone who knew her, was the kind of woman who showed up. For her family. For her job. For her son. She was Haitian-American, born and raised in Westchester County, New York, where she grew up surrounded by her tight-knit family. Rose wasn't out here chasing dreams of fame or fortune. She wanted stability. She wanted to build something solid for herself and the people she loved. She graduated from Monroe College and landed a job as an office assistant at White Plains Hospital. Nothing glamorous, but it was hers. Her coworkers remember her as reliable, warm, the kind of person who'd check on you if you seemed off. She clocked in, she did her work, and she went home to her son. That's who Rose was. A woman trying to do right by her child. But let me tell you something. Doing right by your child gets a whole lot harder when the father of that child is Justin Bartley. Justin Bartley, 32 years old, same age as Rose. They met back when they were teenagers at Portchester High School. You know how those high school relationships go, young love, thinking y'all gonna be together forever, making plans that sound good when you're 17 but don't always age well. For Rose and Justin, those plans aged like milk. By the time their son was born in 2023, Rose wasn't looking at Justin the same way she did back in high school. She was looking at him like a threat. According to her sister, Yvonne, Rose had become increasingly fearful of Justin after their baby arrived. The control, the violence, the way he'd flip over the smallest things. This wasn't new either. Their relationship had always been turbulent, marked by Justin's need to control everything Rose did. And here's the thing, Justin wasn't just juggling one family. Oh no. He had another child with a different woman. Another baby mama, another situation, another set of complications. The man was out here, playing house in multiple places, and none of them were peaceful. Rose tried to make it work. A lot of women do. You tell yourself it'll get better. You tell yourself he'll change once the baby's here. You tell yourself you can manage it, that you can keep him calm, that if you just do things right, maybe he won't explode. But that's the trap, isn't it? You can't manage a man who's determined to be violent. You can't love someone into being safe. Rose's family saw what was happening. They knew Justin was dangerous. They knew Rose was scared. And on November 1st, they did. What a lot of families wish they'd done sooner, they confronted him. They told him to leave. They kicked him out of the apartment Rose shared with her son. It was supposed to be the first step toward freedom. Rose wasn't going back to him. She wasn't letting him around her baby unsupervised. She was done. But here's what nobody tells you about leaving an abusive man. Leaving is the most dangerous part. That's when he realizes he's losing control. That's when the fear turns into rage. That's when he starts making plans. After that confrontation, Rose didn't feel safe going back to the apartment. Even with Justin gone, she didn't trust that he'd stay gone. So she grabbed her 2-year-old son, packed a bag, and checked into the Days Inn Motel on Valley Avenue in Elmsford. Just temporary. Just until things cooled down. Just until she could figure out her next move. Room 230, second floor. It probably felt like a relief at first, you know? A locked door. A place Justin didn't know about. A night to breathe without looking over her shoulder. Rose probably thought she was being smart. She probably thought she was keeping her son safe. She had no idea. Justin was already looking for her. Moving on to what happened next, because this is where everything goes horribly wrong. November 2nd started like any other day at the Days Inn. Guests checking out, housekeeping making their rounds, front desk handling the usual business. In room 230, Rose Philippe was probably trying to keep her 2-year-old entertained in a cramped motel room. Maybe she was on the phone with family, letting them know she was okay. Maybe she was already thinking about what comes next, finding a new place, filing for custody, starting over without Justin in the picture. But Justin had other plans. Somehow, he found out where she was. Maybe he followed her. Maybe someone told him. Maybe he'd been watching the whole time, waiting for his moment. However it happened, Justin Bartley showed up at that motel. And when he got to room 230, he didn't come to talk. He didn't come to apologize. He came to make sure Rose never left him again. What happened in that room lasted for hours. Not minutes. Hours. Think about that. Think about how long that is. How many times Rose probably begged him to stop. How many times she probably tried to shield herself, try to get away, try to protect her son who was right there watching his father kill his mother. A 2-year-old doesn't understand what death is. He just knows mommy's on the floor. He just knows daddy's angry. He just knows something is very, very wrong. That baby watched for hours while Justin beat Rose. Punch after punch. Kick after kick. The kind of violence that doesn't stop until there's nothing left to destroy. By the time Justin was done, Rose Philippe wasn't moving anymore. 32 years old. A whole life ahead of her. A son who needed her. A family who loved her. Gone. And Justin? He looked at what he'd done, looked at his son standing there, and made a decision. He picked up that baby and walked out of room 230 like nothing happened. Rose's body was left in the bathtub. That's where cleaning staff found her later that evening. Just left there, like she was nothing, like she hadn't been a daughter, a sister, a mother, a friend. Like she hadn't spent years trying to get away from the man who finally caught up to her in a motel room she thought was safe. The surveillance cameras at the Days Inn captured Justin leaving, him and the child walking out together. The timestamp puts them fleeing the scene around the same time Rose was taking her last breaths. He had their son in his arms, that same son who'd just watched him commit murder. And Justin headed straight to the Bronx, to the home of his other baby mama. Like he could just slip back into a different life and pretend this one didn't happen. Make it make sense. At 4:30 p.m. on November 2nd, cleaning staff opened the door to room 230. 10 minutes later, Rose Philippe was officially pronounced dead. The Elmsford Police Department responded fast. They had a body. They had surveillance footage. They had a suspect on the run with a toddler. Every second mattered. The video told them everything they needed to know. Justin Bartley, carrying a small child, leaving the motel in a hurry. Police put out an alert. They tracked him to the Bronx, to the address where his other child's mother lived. That's where he thought he'd be safe. That's where he thought he could hide. He was wrong. Shortly after 6 p.m., less than 2 hours after Rose's body was discovered, police found Justin Bartley. The 2-year-old was with him, unharmed physically, though God only knows what that baby's gonna carry with him for the rest of his life. Officers brought both of them back to Elmsford Police Headquarters. The child was safe. Justin was in custody. But Rose? Rose was still dead. Detectives interviewed Justin. They asked him what happened in that room. They asked him why Rose was dead and why he ran. And you know what this man said? He claimed it was mutual. He admitted to punching and kicking, but according to him, he was hitting the wall, not Rose. And he swore that Rose was alive when he left that room with their son. Alive, in a bathtub, with injuries so severe that she'd be dead 10 minutes after being discovered. Oh, so now we're supposed to believe she just happened to die right after you left? After hours of you being in that room with her? After neighbors probably heard something but didn't know what? After you grabbed your son and fled to a whole different borough? Let me tell you something, the evidence wasn't on Justin's side. The medical examiner's office would determine cause of death, and it sure as hell wasn't gonna line up with his story about punching walls. Rose had been beaten, brutally. The kind of beating that takes time. The kind of beating that shows intent. The kind of beating that happens when a man decides his ex-partner doesn't get to be free. Justin Bartley was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. No bail. He was taken to the Westchester County Department of Corrections, where he's been sitting ever since, waiting for his day in court. The 2-year-old was placed with Rose's family, the same family that tried to protect her just one day before she was killed. They got the baby back safe, but they lost Rose. Her sister, Ivana, knew this would happen. Rose had told her she was scared. Rose had told her Justin was getting worse. Rose had tried to leave. She did everything right. She left after the confrontation. She took her son somewhere she thought was safe. She didn't go back to the apartment. She didn't give Justin another chance. She left. And he still found her. He still killed her. He still made sure she'd never leave again. That's the thing about domestic violence that people don't talk about enough. You can do everything right and still end up dead. You can leave. You can get your family involved. You can try to disappear, and the man who's been terrorizing you can still hunt you down. Because for men like Justin Bartley, it was never about love. It was about control. And if he couldn't control Rose alive, he'd make damn sure she didn't live free without him. Rose Philippe's family set up a GoFundMe campaign called Support Rose Philippe's Funeral and Child's Future. The goal was $20,000 money for Rose's funeral expenses and for the long-term care and education of her 2-year-old son, the boy who watched his mother die, the boy who'll grow up without her, the boy who'll have to be told, one day, exactly what his father did. Rose's co-workers at White Plains Hospital mourned her. Her friends shared memories. Her family tried to pick up the pieces of a life that was stolen too soon. But here's what stays with me about this case Rose tried. She didn't ignore the warning signs. She didn't make excuses for Justin. She didn't go back when her family told him to leave. She grabbed her son and she left. She did what so many people tell domestic violence victims to do, and it still wasn't enough. That's the reality we don't talk about enough. Leaving doesn't guarantee safety. Getting your family involved doesn't guarantee protection. Even checking into a motel under the assumption that he won't find you, none of it guarantees you'll survive. Because men like Justin Bartley don't let go. They don't accept that it's over. They'd rather see you dead than see you free. Rose Philippe should still be here. She should be watching her son grow up. She should be going to work at White Plains Hospital. She should be living the quiet, stable life she worked so hard to build. Instead, she's a statistic. Another black woman killed by an intimate partner. Another mother who died trying to protect her child. Another name on a growing list of women who did everything right and still didn't make it out alive. If you're reading this and you recognize yourself in Rose's story, if you're scared of someone you once loved, if you're planning your escape, if you're wondering whether it's worth it to leave, please hear me. It is worth it to leave. But leaving alone isn't always enough. You need a safety plan. You need people who know where you are. You need resources that can help you disappear in ways that make it harder for him to track you down. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can help you create a safety plan. They can connect you with local resources. They can help you figure out your next move in a way that prioritizes your survival. Because survival is what matters. Not trying to do it alone. Not hoping he'll change. Not giving him one more chance. Survival. Rose Philippe didn't get that chance. Her son will grow up with family who loves him, supported by a community that rallied around his mother's memory. But he'll never hear her voice again. He'll never feel her arms around him. He'll never know the woman she was becoming, the life she was trying to build for both of them. Justin Bartley took all of that away in a motel room over the course of a few hours. And for what? Because she dared to leave. Because she dared to choose herself and her son over his need for control. Because she dared to believe she deserved better. She did deserve better. Every woman in Rose's position deserves better. And until we start treating domestic violence like the life or death crisis it is, until we start believing women when they say they're afraid, until we start acting before they end up dead in bathtubs or cars or their own homes, we're going to keep losing them. Rose Philippe was 32 years old. She was a daughter, a sister, a mother, a friend, a coworker. She was a woman who wanted peace. She was a woman who tried to save herself, and she became another woman who didn't survive the man who claimed to love her. Rest in peace, Rose. Your son is safe. Your family is fighting for him, and your story, painful as it is, might just save somebody else's life. That's all we can hope for now. This is Grave Kisses TV, where we tell the stories that need to be told. Stories about love that turn deadly. Stories about women who try to survive. Stories that remind us why we can't stay silent about domestic violence. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you or someone you know is in danger, don't wait. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Rose Philippe's voice was silenced, but yours doesn't have to be. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and keep speaking up.